Hey everybody, welcome to today's stream. Hope you're all doing good today. So we're going to be doing a little turning today. We made these flower blanks a couple weeks ago, and I really wanted to see how these rose petal blanks turn out. So I decided to do, I saw you guys were talking about who uses a bottle opener anymore. I do sometimes. I kind of personally like the darker beers. And so there are actually quite a few beers that need a bottle opener that I drink. So I use them sometimes, but the thing about this project is it's just an easy way to turn a handle without having to tube a pen and do all that kind of stuff. I really like doing that. You can just use a pen blank and make, like something handled. Another good project that kind of falls into this category is a diamond painting pen. Those are very popular. And in that case, you can just, turn the thing. You're not, drilling out and putting tubes and doing all that kind of stuff. You're just leaving the blank intact, drilling a couple holes to put some little tips in, but you get to keep the whole blank intact. I really like, that's a really cool project. I don't do diamond painting, so I don't really need them, but it's a really good project. Fun for somebody that makes pen blanks. I've seen a lot of my blanks used for some really cool projects. A couple other things, there's like seam rippers. A lot of those kits do require tubes, but I used to make them where you just kind of jam the little tips in. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So if you guys have any other ideas of something where you can leave it intact, put it in the comments. I just offhand, I know there's a few other ones, but I just can't think right now. But I kind of like those, especially for these blanks that are, see-through. Where you got a lot of clear or transparent, resin, that presents problems when you're trying to do a pen that has the tube in it. And I guess one thing you could maybe do is a kitless pen, but you're still, the problem with those is you're still drilling out a ton of the material, which kind of, for something that's a little bit more sparse like this, it's not like super densely packed, which I could have done that, but for something that's like this, you're drilling away so much of the material that I don't think it's going to be as awesome in the end. I like things where you're really kind of leaving the blank, the majority of it intact, putting some shaping on it, and you can still see the stuff in there. So anyway, a couple things that you can do, and I thought this is, I made these blanks. I actually made quite a few of these. I made round ones though, because I think those are just going to be a little easier to turn and start. They were pretty easy to cast as well, but I made some of those, and they're actually up on the website. And I made them in 7/8 diameter, so they're a little bit thicker, especially if you want to do handles and stuff. Thought that would be a little bit better. Plus, it was easier to get the material to get the liquid into the mold. And I have got some pretty slick. These things are pretty awesome. If you're going to be making a bunch of tube type things, these are a pretty good mold. They're not cheap, but they're P-Town subby. And I think you can probably get these on Turner's Warehouse, and you can also get it at ptownsubby.com. But these things are really awesome. And they're also very easy to demold. You just use the air hose trick and blow them across the shop. But anyway, so those are on the, I put the link to the, did I do the right link? Shoot. Hold on a minute, I gotta double check this link. Yeah, okay. Those are the rose petal blanks. And I thought those would be really cool for Valentine's Day coming up. I kind of forget that one. We don't really do, that's like a Hallmark holiday kind of in my eyes, but I kind of forget that one. And so that's coming up. Not a bad one to make some projects for, right? So I wanted to share a couple other things real quick. First, I want to see who was here first. Let's see who was here first. Richard was here first, followed by Dominic. Nice. I don't know, Dominic, you're going to have to get up really early. Some of these people are coming in and beating you. So I wanted to share a couple things. I got an order. I finally placed my order at dannerbuilds.com. So Philip Danner over there. I've been talking about, I bought these. Do I have them anymore? I really hated I bought some of the cheap, where did I put those things? I don't even know what I did with them at this point. I was like, oh, these are terrible. But I bought some cheap coaster molds off of Amazon, and they sucked. So I knew that Philip made some nice ones, so I picked up a 4-pack. And while I was on there, you guys, if you haven't checked out dannerbuilds.com and you like doing really cool silicone mold type projects and things with resin, you got to go check it out because Philip's got awesome stuff over there. So I was tooling around and I saw these little kit things that match up with the coasters. And so the way this works, you put these little, these are silicone doohickeys. You put these in your mold, try and get that kind of set. And what you do is you pour some resin in here, let it kind of harden up, and then you can take this out and then pour another color. How cool is that? That is like the coolest thing ever. And so I got a couple sets of these little silicone doohickeys. I got this one. You can do all kinds of, like, it's kind of like a sun type thing. And so you can just plop these guys in there, pour your resin a little bit carefully, especially with these little doohickeys, these little knobbers. I really loved this one. For anybody that doesn't know, I love snowboarding. I live up in Tahoe area. And so the mountain ones, I was like, heck yeah. But I was also thinking, oh, why don't we put a little star with that? So that's why I got the moon and star ones. Put a little moon up there. So anyway, these are just the coolest things ever. Go check them out at dannerbuilds.com. And for patrons, this is what we're going to be doing this Friday. We're going to be playing with these guys. I am super stoked about that. That's going to be a fun one. And I also even picked up, you guys probably saw some of the old, I didn't open these yet, but these are rocks, or I don't know, gemstone things. And so I picked up a new batch of rocks that you can use for coasters and, you know, river tables or whatever, anything you want. I would not recommend trying to turn any of this stuff. That's not going to be very fun. Did try it once, didn't go too well. But I thought it'd be cool for coasters. You can just dump them in there and cast some stuff. And then I also picked up, I forget what this is called, like a magnifying lens thing. It's just like a half sphere. And I thought this would be really fun to play around with as well. So we're not going to do that on Friday, but that'll be coming up. I'm trying to think of a cool project to use that for. And then one other little update. You guys know that I just got a Resin 3D printer, and I've been playing around with resin printing. So for people that have been around for a while, I used to make what I called pinstripe blanks. And so this, you just drop it in a PVC pipe, and then I usually pour white resin around this. This is kind of like a navy blue. And you get kind of a Yankees, New York Yankees uniform look with the pinstripes. But I didn't really like the old style FDM printers. They didn't stick as well. People had some issues. It was kind of brittle material. But I did turn one of these already, and I've been making lots of them. And so the pinstripes, I think, are coming back to the shop, my store. Where did I put the pen? Shoot. Here it is. So if that doesn't scream Yankees, I don't really know what does. So I was pretty happy with how it turned. I did one with this blue. And the thing about this, and we'll be doing some videos on 3D printing stuff, but I actually dyed this. It started out white. And so I used just Alumilite dyes, and I got myself a custom navy blue color for this stuff, which is one of the big reasons why I wanted to get into resin printing, because you have that kind of control. You can do that kind of thing. I wasn't sure how well it was going to work, but it seems to work pretty good. And another one that I'm going to add, I don't know if you guys can really see that, but it's red and white. So that's a really good one for the Phillies. So I'll probably be adding that one to my lineup as well. But both the turnings went really well. The 3D printing went well. So far I'm pretty impressed with it. The one thing that I ran into a little bit of an issue. I was using a black resin, and I just did a quick test and turned a couple of these honeycombs with black honeycomb stuff. This one looks really, really good. There's no issues with that, and I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this on camera, but I did get a chip out. That was kind of weird. I kind of clunked it though when I was doing it, so it's mostly my fault. But I'm finding that there's these little, it's like the honeycomb, the 3D print material is like kind of brittle or something. I don't know. I don't like that. It doesn't look good at all. And it happened on a couple of these. And I've actually been having, it seems like that resin is super brittle. So I think what I'm going to have to do is just try a different black resin. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I definitely like, you know, I think I can fix it, find a different resin to use, but that won't be a problem. But I think, oh, I didn't show you guys. Hold on. Let's, oh man, where's my cameraman? Is he asleep? What's going on here? I don't even know what I showed you guys at this point. So we're gonna retrace our steps here a little bit. So here's the Yankees blank. I think I showed you that. I think that was the right camera. Look at that. That's wicked. It's probably not really in focus. I like that. I don't know if I showed you that. Here's the Phillies red. I think I showed you that. I don't know when I switched camera views. But here's these things. So this one turned out good. And there's no issues on this, the black stuff, but there's some like chunkies. I don't know. It's like it's brittle or something. Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to make out, but in person, it's not good. I don't like it. And I did get a chip out right there. That was kind of weird, but I don't anticipate that happening. I kind of messed up there. And it also might have to do with that resin again, because it's just, there's weird stuff. And I was having weird, I've been doing test prints to see if the exposure setting was right. And those things, trying to get those off the build plate, they're just cracking. So I think it's the resin, because it's all that black resin. Yeah, and I am giving it a good, like it's exposed enough. It's brittle, which I don't know, maybe I don't know a whole lot about this stuff, but from what I understand, if you underexpose it, it's going to be kind of gooey, and none of them are gooey. It's like brittle. So I think it's just that resin. The resin that I was using was the black water washable from Elegoo. And so I'm going to try, I have ABS-like from Elegoo. I'm going to try that. I'm pretty sure I have a black one in that. And if that doesn't work, there's tons of other more like engineering kind of level, you know, non-brittle and tough, like more durable resins out there. I'm kind of using the standard ones right now. So, but I didn't have any issues with the white. That's what that stuff that was dyed, the blue. That stuff seems to be fine. So I haven't cast any of these blue ones or anything, but I want to stay away from, I don't think that adding a lot of black dye to the white resin or even clear, I don't think that's going to be a good idea. These things need light transmission to cure. So the dye thing, you got to kind of be a little bit careful with that. But after I get done doing, I'm still doing a lot of testing, trying to, you know, get my head around all this stuff. Like, one, I need to kind of learn how resin printers work, you know, and just get in the rhythm with that. So that's one thing. I'm also doing testing with some different resins, doing some color, you know, dyeing and messing around. So there's like a lot of things going on. You guys might have noticed that I've been kind of like totally absent on social media. When I start doing testing phase, everything, like I can't focus on, you know, more than one thing at a time like that. So that's where I've been, just having some fun. Overexposure, yeah, overexposure, yeah. Well, I did a test, and I got it to the point where it was gooey, and that wasn't awesome. And I also got it to the point where it was overexposed and it's brittle. So I think it's that resin, because I haven't had any problems with anything else. So anyway, let's get to turning. I've been talking for way too long at this point. So let's head over, and I got my blank right here. Let me just put a couple things away so I don't, it'll just work a lot better in the long run if I get these things out of my way and into a safe position. Once I get going with something, oh man, it's on. Okay, so we'll switch to the camera view. Doug's here, what's up, man? Camera, Canon, there it is, the Lathe. All right, so here's the deal, guys. What kit I'm using is, I got this from Turner's Warehouse. It's like the kind of cheap standard one. There's nothing, no frills. But I think what I'm going to try to do, I don't know what the best method for doing this is. I'm going to do my standard, just drill it out and tap thread straight into the blank. All right, and the thing is, I don't know if that's really going to be the best way to do things. You know, a lot of times it's a good idea to do I'm finding that it's really a good idea to use the knurled inserts, the brass inserts. I think that they provide a little extra, I don't know, a little extra stability with things. And so you would drill a 1/2 inch hole and then mount this. But as you can kind of see, this thing's super long. Now I could cut it off, I guess, or do something, but I think what I'm gonna do, like I said, we're just gonna drill and tap threads all the way down, and I think it's gonna be fine. But the other issue with doing that is I didn't prepare that. I didn't do this ahead of time. And so you're gonna see that thread in there, you know, that stem. So there's different ways to deal with this. Now, another way another thing I've done to kind of deal with these kind of bottle opener type things is you can also just drill a bigger hole, like the hole that will actually, where the threads are not, you know, you're not threading it in, it just literally the post fits in there. And then epoxy it in with like a black or maybe a white or something like that, dyed epoxy resin. And that way the thing ain't coming out. It should be solid as a rock. It should be pretty strong. So that's another way to deal with it. But like I said, for the most part, what I'm trying to do here is I just want to turn this stupid blank up. So I'm not that worried if it doesn't, I don't think that the force of opening a beer bottle is really going to mess this thing up. The question is, how well is it going to stay on the mandrel? I think that's maybe the only issue that we might run into. So we're just going to get this thing mounted on the lathe. We're going to do a little bit of turning here. I'm going to first, so what I've decided to do, you could just mount this maybe between centers if you wanted, you know, using like kind of a small spur drive. This one's a little bit on the big side. They got smaller ones. So you could maybe do that between centers, you know, bring this guy up. You could maybe just drill in kind of a cone type shape and try using a dead center. I don't think that's going to be the best method, but it might work. You can just grip it with these jaws, put it between centers and turn a little bit, and then maybe like try to flip it. But I think what I'm going to do is just go ahead and use the universal mandrel from Stainless Bottle Stoppers. I'm going to, like I said, drill, tap threads, and we're just going to mount it like it's a bottle stopper basically and see how that goes. What do you guys think? Oh, I got to get my phone open so I can see the comments. Do you guys have any other ideas on how to mount this or to cover the threads? What do you guys do? I'd love to hear from you guys. Yeah, Jen's on she knew. The drill an oversized hole and just glue it in. Frank, I appreciate you too, man. Thank you for the super chat. That's awesome. Okay, so I don't see anything. Okay, so let me open up the YouTube application. See what you guys think, because I'm not, you know, I'm no expert when it comes to turning. I just kind of, you know, do whatever. Do what I think is kind of the best, and you know, it depends on how you're going to use things, but I think that this method should work okay, you know, reasonably well, I would say. All right, so yeah, paint it black, but you could do that, you know, maybe just use spray paint, I guess. I don't have time to let that dry on the stream. Not too bad. That's paint. I kind of like the epoxy thing. Well, actually, here's one thing that you could do if you want to take a lot longer and you want to have it like perfect. What you could do, like let's say that I wanted to, in the end, I wanted to just drill and tap threads into the blank. I'm not doing inserts or any of that other stuff, but I do want to drill it and tap it and be able to actually remove this if I need to wash it, I guess, maybe, or something. What you can do is actually drill a fairly oversized hole, so a little bit bigger than the threads. Drill it out and then literally just pour some black dyed resin, like casting resin, in there. Fill it up completely, let it fully harden, and then drill and tap. You know, so that black part would be, you know, bigger than the tapping threads after the fact. So then you can come back in and drill it with a drill bit that's meant to, you know, for this, your 5/16 drill bit, and then tap the 3/8/16 thread. So that initial hole needs to be bigger than 3/8, you know, for sure. So like maybe a 1/2 inch hole, something like that. and then let that black set up, and you're guaranteed to have a nice black even thing. But it takes, you know, then you're going to be waiting another like week probably to let that fully harden up. So there's a couple different ways to do it. You know, hopefully, you know, one of these ideas, if you're trying to make something like this, one of these ideas will, you know, resonate with you and work for the project that you're trying to make. I don't have enough time for that to do that. I think I would pick especially because I tend to do the drilling and tapping. I think the best method for me would a lot of times be that, you know, drill a much bigger hole, refill that whole thing with resin, and then drill and tap inside the color. But time, you know, I never have time to do that. All right, so 1.5 inch tube. Now you can make a bottle opener no problem with a pen blank. You don't need a gigantic blank. That's the beauty of it. That's why, and it seems like it's too thin. Now you're not going to get a bunch of shaping, and it's not going to be some fancy handle, you know. That's for certain. But you can definitely use a pen blank to make a handle, in a bottle opener handle. So one thing I want to do is I'm just going to kind of make a mark on my drill bit. If I can find my Sharpie. Kind of wing it just so I know about where to go. Now you don't want to overheat your blank, you know, when you're drilling. Just go in a little ways, back it out, clean your chips, blow it off, or, you know, use your air hose. That's one of the biggest things that I think people fail at when they're making pen blanks. Or, you know, like that's a point of a failure that people have, and can cause some issues like, you know, blowouts. If you overheat the blank, especially if you got mixed materials in your blank, and then you overheat that stuff, it can kind of delaminate that bond between the resin that you cast and the materials. So you always want to kind of keep these things a little bit on the cool side. And that's just generally decent advice, even for wood. I would turn I don't know how the dust collector is going to go with this microphone. The other one worked pretty well with the dust collector. It didn't really pick it up. So we'll have to see. All right, so that ought to be deep enough. We'll tap some threads here. Again, 3/8 16 is what we're using here. And then for tapping, you just put a little bit of pressure on that tailstock. And let me get this thing out of my way. I think I'm just going to grab right here. And you just come in, you know, 2 or 3 turns, back it out a little bit. Kind of clear those threads, those chips, I should say. With this thing, it's kind of a little bit better to have one of the crankable chucks. I really just prefer these, but sometimes it can kind of loosen up when you're backing it out, so just watch that. If you're using a keyless chuck, you can just kind of grab it and that'll help a little bit. Better to use the hand wheel, but it's so much farther away. I'm going to kind of clean some of these guys off. I'm going to move this thing because every time I blow into it, it just blows it back in my face. Toothpick box. Nice. Yeah, frosting the inside. If you're not going for the frosted look, use one of the things that some of the... ouch. Got my finger stuck in there. One of the things that some of the kitless pen makers do to kind of reduce that is you can actually use like cooking oil, like Pam. the cooking spray and just kind of spray that hole or your drill bit, keep everything kind of lubricated, and that can really help out with that. Reduce some of that, because it, especially for like the kitless pens, you really got to make those things look nice. Oh, and I wanted to mention to Mr. Fleet's Wood, I still got your chips, and I have a project planned for those. The aluminum shavings that you sent, I got them cleaned up. I actually did a couple different types of cleaning, but I want to do a video, and so it's coming. I got a video idea. It'll be like a real regular kind of video. It would end up having to be like way too many live stream episodes otherwise. Okay. So I think we got some threads tapped in there. Okay. See how our bottle opener works in this thing first. Oh, looks like we kind of came loose there. Oh yeah. Just want to make sure that this thing will go all the way down. Now, one thing you can do, and I already kind of mentioned this, you can kind of just lop off. You don't necessarily need the. Oh, yeah, we need to go a little deeper. It looks like. I don't know if my tap will go. So let me try and let me tighten this thing up, because it's just wobbling around in there. That's not good. Let me see if we can get a little bit deeper. Now this thing's off a little bit, but that's okay. Kind of messed that up, didn't I? We're starting off rocky, guys. Now, one other thing that we made this blank with epoxy, and I've actually found that stuff can kind of sometimes get a little bit, I don't know, soft, especially if you heat it up. I just want to make sure that I'm actually tracking the thread. So I took that out of my chuck real quick. We're just going to line that up. Let's see if I can get down a little bit deeper. You got some sitting in a box? Yeah, I got a plan. Do have a plan. Okay, so let's see how that did this time. See if we got that deep enough this time. Again, worst case scenario, those threads are so long on those kits and they're just really, I don't think, necessary. I mean, I don't know what are you using this for? It's a bottle opener. The worst case scenario, I'm just going to shave that off a little bit at the end. Let's see if we got this one this time. Ooh, I think we got it. Ah, look at that. We got it. Okay. I've managed to not screw it up royally yet. Okay. So let's flip this guy around. Where's my doohickey there? Let's get it on the other mandrel. Ouch. Might have to use Doug's tool. I don't know if it works too well on this chuck though. I don't know about that. Let's use Doug's tool this way. There we go. Works both ways, guys. Okay. Now we're rocking. So again, this is just the universal manual. You can use any of them. This is the one that Stainless Bottle Stopper sells. I'm gonna check and see. Let's see if these kits come with the little sleeves. This one's, or bushings, I should say. Seems a little big. It's close. Let's take a peek and see what else we got. I finally put my little kit together. So they started selling these little bushing boxes that you can separate all your stuff with. And I finally actually put them in there, and I even lined them up correspondingly. So let's see here. These are the plastic ones. Actually, this one's a plastic one as well, I think. Let's go with 3/4. Oh yeah, there we go. 3/4. 3/4 is the way to go. So everybody on the East Coast is getting slammed with snow. It's making me angry because we have been dry out in the Sierra Nevadas. we got nothing. We had zero, like no snow on the ground until like the end of December. Then it decides to dump 10 feet like in a week or two maybe. And then it's just been dry. And I'm just like, what happened to winter? Where did the winter go? You know? Give me some snow. I want a snowboard. All right, so here we go. Just gonna use that tailstock thing. Live center. I got a 6-inch rest going on here. I need to do a little bit of cleanup on this rest. It's been a little bit chunky. So if your tools aren't sliding as wonderfully as you really would like them to, take a little bit of sandpaper. I'm just hitting it with a little 240 and just get it nice and smoothed out. Kind of sticky in the middle. When you got a sticky tool rest, then you're going to have some sticky tools. I'm going to hit it with the little 400 because I got a piece sitting right here. Is that 400? Yeah, that's 400. Just to make it a little nicer. Okay. And then you finish it off with a little bit of paste wax. And then you're going to be smooth and flying free. Now, we don't have the humidity issues you do. I don't need to worry too much about things rusting. If that's what you're, if that's why you said that, Doug. Only when my dad decided to evaporate acid in our shop did I have, and it wasn't even really rust, it was acid. Acid issues eating everything in my shop. All right, so let's do some turning, guys. What do you think? We finally got there. I'm going to turn on the dust collector, and I want you guys to let me know if that is ridiculously loud in your ears, okay? Because if it is, then what I think I might do is swap out microphones. I have the old one still, and it didn't seem to pick up the noise on this thing. It's loud in my ears, but it's not so loud on the camera or whatever. So let's give it a whirl. Let's see, I got a little magnetic doohickey now. All right, so let me know how that is. I'm gonna kind of keep my eyes on this screen. A high of 10, oh my God. Yeah, it's been actually pretty cold the last couple days here. How to wax your tool. Yep. Oh man, yeah, you guys are getting dumped on out there. You're gonna mail me some snow? I would love some snow. Not too bad. I mean, it's not gonna sound awesome, but there's really no way to get around it. It's gonna make noise, but if it's like ridiculous, then let me know. Okay. Let's get this guy going here. I'm gonna grab my face mask. I may be kind of muffled. Where's my, oh, there it is. I need to replace my screen on this mask. It's pretty jacked up. Also a bit dusty. Just in case there's pieces, you know, kind of that chip off. It's always a good idea to mask up. Gotta get my light out of the way though. There we go. Let's go a little faster. How about that? All right, so let's just stop and let's evaluate what's happening here. So far, everything's looking fine on these corners. You know, obviously square blanks, you can get a little bit of kind of chippy stuff sometimes. I'm not that worried about these flowers really, but just wanted to kind of stop and see, but it's looking pretty good. Let's see if you guys can kind of get a little bit closer view there. Try to get this thing up a little bit higher, maybe. Let me stop and see what that looks like on the other screen. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You can see what's happening. Okay. So we're looking pretty good. There may be some little pits and things here and there in there. You just never know. Not a big deal. We just fill it with some CA glue. Oh, that's in. Let's go out. Okay, let's keep it going here. Now where are we at? Now, you know, the one thing is, you can make a handle out of a pen blank, but you're not going to be doing a whole lot of shaping and all that stuff. Like we're going to get it rounded pretty much, and that's pretty much what's going to happen. Now the one thing is, I don't think I got that centered on the blank that well. You know, that hole, that's one issue. So might be kind of a thinnish handle, but I've made plenty of these things. They work fine for bottle openers. But you don't have a lot of room. Now that's why I wanted to go with those 7/8 ones. 1 inch, I think, for one of these types of handles, that's probably the sweet spot. You don't need to go to 1.5. I mean, that's a huge bottle opener kind of thing. 1 inch is, you got plenty of room there to do a little bit of shaping though. $40-degree drop. Ugh. All right. Well, tighten her up. We're almost there. Just got a little bit of a flat right there. So far it's looking pretty good. I mean, we can't see a whole lot yet, but I do think once this gets polished up, man, I don't know. I think these blanks are going to be pretty cool. I'm hoping, you know, obviously. Otherwise, I made a lot of blanks that are going to suck. Oh, man. All right, let's get this thing rounded up. Going for a little bit of a kind of an indent. That may be a terrible design choice. on something that needs leverage, but I think we'll be okay. Like I said, unless you're opening the world's biggest beer, don't think it's really going to be that big of a deal. Okay, let's see the damage here. Yeah, that would do. Might even bring that swoop up just a little bit further here. I'm actually also, one other thing you can do is kind of shorten this a little bit so it's not as much leverage. I think that might kind of help. I don't know. Just an idea. Okay, let's do a little bit of sanding. This face mask off. I sound like Darth Vader. Actually, also, is Gene here? There's Gene. Check your email, Gene. I got the mystery box test ready for you if you want it. So let me know. I sent you an email about that stuff. All right, so first thing we're gonna do, I think I'm gonna start with a little bit of, yeah, I think we're gonna start with 180. In fact, I think I'm gonna try and smooth this out a little bit more. I didn't do a particularly awesome job in some of these areas here. That's a little better, I think. So I'm going to drop the speed down to like 400 or so. Do a little bit of sanding. Is Alex here? Where's Alex? I don't see. Oh, there he is. Snow day. Nice. I love snow days. Yeah, your blanks are on the way. I can't wait to see what you make with them, man. Okay. So we're gonna start with, maybe I'm gonna see what happens here. I'm gonna try 240. Might need to drop down to 180. You're always better off starting a little higher, but you run the risk of not getting the tool marks out, and at that point, it's not going to go very well, you know. I'm just going to kind of clean this stuff off a little bit here. Okay. So I like to just kind of hit it real quick, and you can kind of see little lines here and there. Are you guys kind of close in there a little bit? It's hard to see on this screen. You can kind of see some lines. This is actually looking pretty decent, so I think we can maybe keep going with the 240 grit. Three kitless pens, nice. 1200 grit sandpaper. Oh no. Well, can you use like the polishing papers? They go from like, I don't know, the Zona paper. I think the green one's like 750 or so grit. And they go all the way up to like, I don't know what, super high. Or like micro mesh, either one. All right, so I still got some lines down there, and I think at this point, I'm gonna be better off. It's gonna be a lot quicker to just move up to 180. 180 grit sandpaper. Rather than sit here and try and get that out with the 240. Be here all day. And what I find is a lot of times you think you got it out and you didn't. In reality, the dust is just kind of covering it up. So always better to just drop down a grit, get your work done. And if that seems to be taking forever, then drop down another grit. You know, just get the stuff done. If you got one really bad line, pull the tool back out and just try and smooth it out. But don't waste your time messing with fine grit sandpaper trying to get tool marks out. It's just not gonna go very well. And you can always, you know, use water or something, you know, wet sand. That's always, I would actually say that's generally kind of the best way to go. You're guaranteed not to kind of heat up the blank or do anything, or, you know, keep things from clogging. I usually like to do a little bit of, and I'm a little bit on the lazy side, so this is not what I recommend necessarily, but I like to dry sand up to 400, just because I find it's easier to kind of clean off and move on to the next thing. I'm also stubborn. Alright, so I think that's looking pretty good. I don't really see any major tool marks. I think I can move back up to 240. I'm a strong believer at this point that to wipe off the blank between each grit, wipe it off with denatured alcohol. I really think that will save you from like getting to the end and then finding out that there's little scratch marks in it. What can happen is, you know, sandpaper, the way it works, it's constantly breaking off, like fracturing the little sand particles. And so what can happen is if you don't clean the dust off, you may have a little particle of 180 grit that's like constantly on there. And then you move to 240, but you're still moving that 180 grit little scratch thing around. And what ends up happening is you don't notice it until you get to the end, and then you're mad because you got this like one scratch. that you don't know where it came from. So I think the denatured alcohol, just wipe it off. You could probably just use water. I like the alcohol because it dries quicker. I really think that's a good way to go. Yeah, wet sanding can kind of be a hassle. Sometimes. It's definitely not a bad way to go though. Denatured alcohol is bad there too. I thought it was just acetone. That's why you don't live in California. Trust me, I'm right next to it. There's a lot of places I'd love to move to. Right over the mountain. No way. They make it so difficult to live there and expensive. You have to drive to Vegas to get it? Oh my God. That's crazy. The contraband. You can set up a little black market deal going. I think I'm going to do a little bit of vertical or whatever, lengthwise sanding. This is also a good trick to make sure that you've gotten all the previous grit scratches out. Do a little bit of, you don't necessarily need to do it like radially and then lengthwise on every grit, but you can flip-flop back and forth, and that can kind of help just ensure that you've, gotten all those scratches out, because if there's no more scratches going around the blank, then on the next one, then you're good to go. Or in this case, I'm going to end the 240, with the lengthwise scratches. And I'm going to stop and make sure that I don't have any more radial scratches going around the blank. Then when I go to 400 on the next step, I'm just going to turn the lathe on and do the radial sanding. And you've gotten all the 240 grit scratches out when there are no more lengthwise scratch marks, So it's kind of a good trick, plus the fact that this is solid surface, and so you're kind of creating a scratch pattern, like a cross scratch pattern. You're not just following the same lines, basically. And I think that that's actually a good way to do sanding on solid surface anyway. You see that in people that are doing counters. You see it in like headlight repair. Anytime you're doing, trying to sand plastics, a lot of times you'll see people mention that, doing it a couple different directions. And it makes sense. And again, wash it off with something. It doesn't have to be alcohol. I mean, that's especially if it's illegal where you live. Obviously, don't use it. But that's just my recommendation. But you want to just get that, get any particles or anything off. So I like to blow it off first. That gets kind of the big chunks. And then just give it a good wipey. You should be good to go. Now we can move up to 400 grit. This time I'm just gonna do a little bit of radial. Isopropyl, yeah, it should work about the same. That's actually something, you know, I got into the resin 3D printing, and most people use isopropyl alcohol to kind of clean parts and wash things off and do all this stuff. And I've just been using denatured alcohol because I have it. It's a little bit cheaper, I think. Kind of interchangeable. They do about the same thing. I sometimes worry about tack cloths if you're gonna, especially if you're gonna put a finish on that's not like an oil finish. So you just gotta watch what's in it, because if it's like an oil-based tack cloth, you gotta kind of watch out if you're trying to, that may affect like a CA finish. In this case, I'm gonna go for a UV finish. Lacquers would have an issue with oil. So just wanted to mention that. It's not bad or anything, but depending on how you're going to be doing the finishing, you got to watch out. I come from a kind of a more woodworking background, where if you're going to put a water-based finish on, you can't use an oil tack cloth. So you got to watch certain things. So I always perk up when I hear certain things. Force a habit. I think CA is all right. I think that'll cure pretty well. In fact, I might actually just do a CA finish. The only issue I have with UV finish is you gotta do the full cure. And I don't want to have you guys have to sit and wait. Okay, I think I got all the lengthwise scratches. Now we're just gonna move over to the wet sanding. Turn the loud thing off. Another thing that's really good about the wet sanding is it keeps the dust out of the air. So that's I would say another advantage to it. But you know, you're dealing with wet sanding the whole time. So actually, so what am I doing? We need to fill these little. There's a few little pit marks. What am I doing? We're not ready yet. We're not done. So I'm going to get my thick CA glue out. I think we're going to try and get you guys in a little bit closer this time. I guess that is pretty close. Let's just try and go pretty close here. Let me stop and see what's happening in the chat here. Yeah, you can just go to the liquor store and get Everclear. That'll work too. Yeah, don't exhale that carbon dioxide. It'll get you. Yeah, I definitely recommend, that's a good point, Bill. I definitely recommend wet sanding when you start getting into the finer grits. You know, I don't, even with 600, I don't really, it just doesn't seem to work that well dry. I don't find it works better wet sanding typically. So I'm gonna wipe this off real quick with some denatured alcohol. I almost forgot to do that. Jeez, what am I doing? That'll help me kind of see what's going on. It just kind of clears things up too. I'm gonna make sure that I dry this well. I don't want it to interfere with our CA glue. I think an air hose at the lathe is probably one of the most amazing tools ever. Oh, that looks like there's some scratches going that way. One thing that also helps is having like a raking light. I don't know if you guys, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I don't do this a lot of times on the stream because sometimes it can kind of take forever inspecting, and most of the time it's not a big deal. But if you can get a strong raking light, so you know, in front of it and where it's the light is just bouncing off perfectly, you can really see where the scratches are on your blank. Get down in there, and you'll have to get in the right position, but once you find the right position, you can really see the surface. Now I'm sure you guys are getting blown out completely on the camera by this, but it definitely does help. So I'm seeing scratches. So we're going to go back and do more 400 grit because I didn't get it all. And that's going to come back to haunt me. And I don't want to be haunted. It's not Halloween. Ah, you sent me an email. Nice. Thanks, Gene. So I got some more work to do here. Sometimes it's really difficult to see, especially on lighter colored, you know, clear, transparent stuff, or you know, your whites. I was having a really tough time with those pinstripe blanks. It's just, white is hard. The scratches, now the nice thing is you can kind of get away with more because nobody's going to see the scratches typically, unless the light hits it just perfectly. However, what ends up happening is if you got a bunch of scratches in there, you're never going to get it as glossy as you would like, unless you put a finish on top. You know, and at that point, like if you're going to put a finish on, you don't really need to polish up, which I actually need to kind of think about what I'm doing here. Wasn't really thinking. We're going to fill those potholes, and I don't need to wet sand yet because I'm going to put a CA finish on top and seal everything. I usually recommend doing that on hybrid type blanks, anything where there's stuff embedded. It'll just give you a nice even sheen across the entire surface, rather than, you know, some of these areas where the flour is kind of what we're sanding. Dried flour doesn't polish up particularly well, you know, necessarily. So you're always better off giving something like that, mixed materials. The resin's going to always polish up super glossy compared to wood or flowers or, you know, whatever, cholla, cactus, pine cones. Okay, so I think that's probably good. If there's a scratch or two, I'll just live with it. Do a little bit of denatured alcohol. A little wipey. All right. Oh, lost my air hose. There we go. Okay. Turn the loud monster off. Let's see here. I'm to hate what? You need a compressor. Yeah, Alex. There's so many good ones out there now too, especially if you're going to get into, you know, casting. You're going to need a compressor for the pressure pot. So we got a few little potholes here and there. I can feel them. The problem is now that I've wiped that off, it's actually kind of hard to see where the dips, the pits and stuff are. But I think I can kind of pick them out. I can feel them. There's something going on there. Quite a few right in this area. So, you know, there's always going to be little pits and stuff when you're dealing with like dried materials, pine cones. The resin just can't get in, you know, into the insides of these things. So there's a pretty big little pit right there. So big little, big little pit. I'm going to get you guys kind of zoomed in a little bit further. Unfortunately, probably be smarter to get the camera on the left side, but I don't really have a lot of room there. I'm just going to leave it there and try and move and show you guys what's kind of going on. Got a few pits here and there on these. One way you can go is to just put a glove on and just get a medium or thick resin. One thing that I usually do is actually hit it with the super thin first, but I kind of forgot. Let's do that. Let's grab a glove and just kind of, it's kind of like you're troweling it into the holes if you do the glove. Plus, gloves compared to paper towel. Paper towel is going to absorb stuff. Glove is not, right? So you can kind of just massage it in a little bit more. I still like to apply CA finishes with paper towels, but when you're trying to like fill gouges and things. I prefer this method with the glove. It just seems to kind of smooth things out. And so what we're going to do now, you don't want to, a lot of times it's hard to fully fill, I find, you know, so I like to do kind of layers, like and that was actually pretty thick. In fact, I think I'm going to kind of thin this out just a little bit. And get that little thing filled down there. But I like to do stages, right? Where add a layer, let that cure up a little bit, and then add another layer. We'll just let that kind of cure for a minute. Yeah, California Air Tools. Actually, I bought one. If anybody needs, and the reason I did this is because I needed it right away, but Lowe's has super quiet ones that it works really well. They're super quiet line. I bought one to go to the SoCal Pen Turners gathering. I've kind of gotten to the point where I just don't trust, if I'm doing like a demo, I just don't trust people's equipment. I like to be prepared and know what tools I have, and bring my own if I can. So I decided to just bring a compressor with me, but I needed a small one, obviously. And so I just got this little kind of, I don't know how many, like 2 or 3 gallon jobber, and it is awesome. Super quiet. Works really well. It's the Cobalt brand, actually, or whatever, which I think is just Lowe's brand. All right, so I'm going to do, you still see some pits here and there. Do another little round. I think I missed this one last time. Have a good one, Alex. Thanks for joining the fun tonight. Can't wait to see those pen blanks turned up. Should be arriving hopefully pretty soon here. Hopefully they didn't get any kind of weather delay on the shipping. All right. Now I'm just going to hit it with the super thin CA. Kind of douse it, basically. What happened to all the... There's the paper towel. Might need to do a little bit more with this. We'll see. But I'm also just going to douse it real quick with the super thin. Stefan, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. This will just kind of fill in any other little gaps that I might have missed. Now, one thing you got to be careful of, if you're doing a CA finish, you don't want to glue your blank to the bushings. So stainless bottle stoppers actually came out with some plastic bushings. I think they might be a little bit bigger than 3/4 though. Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do instead is, I think I'm going to pop this guy off, scoot that down. What I'm going to do is just basically take off the bushing completely. And that ought to work just fine. We shouldn't get any issues going on. You still got this little nub, but you probably, most likely, unless you're a little wild with the CA glue, I think that everything should be okay. Okay. What am I spraying on the blank? This is accelerator. It just cures your CA glue faster. So every brand's got, you know, its own kind of accelerator. I really like this mercury stuff. Let me zoom out a little bit. I guess I'm pretty close. I like the mercury. It doesn't over accelerate. Sometimes there are some accelerators that seem to kind of, they're harsh, let's say. And you can get kind of cracking and foaming and stuff. It also depends on the CA you're using, but this mercury seems to be pretty kind of mild. It seems like. That's why I use that. All right, so now we got a pretty funky looking blank here. I'm actually going to hit it with the tool real quick. Just kind of nibble a bit to try and get some of that stuff down. Probably have a few high points here and there. Okay. Probably should have filled this kind of off the bat, but I forgot. All right, so let's go back to 180 grit. Just do that real quick, try and kind of knock some of this stuff down real quick. Not using a lot of pressure here. Just want to try and take off some of this extra. Ah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just having some fun here turning this blank up. I appreciate your support. A bit of a bump right there. I think I might try to just kind of nibble that. You got to be kind of careful pulling the tools out again, but I think I can. I think I can quickly take off just a little bit there. I don't know what grit that is. I'm gonna get a new piece of paper because it doesn't seem to be cutting anything. So let's see where we're at here. Do we have any major? So all the shiny spots are low spots, right? I don't see any that are like super. Like we got a big, well, there's one maybe right there. A little bit there, but most of this is pretty good. So I think I can sand this up. We're gonna have to basically go through all the sanding again, but one of the drawbacks to, you know, when you're doing mixed material blanks, a lot of times you're gonna have a bit of filling to do, you know, and there's just no quick way that I know of to get that done. You can maybe just douse it with a bunch of medium or something like that, CA. That may go a little faster, but I don't know. Bill's got an off-topic question. Liquid pigments are getting real thick. Yeah, you can just add a little bit of your Part A in there. Sneak up on it a little bit, but that'll thin it out a little bit more. You should be good. As far as I can tell, I mean, the way that, you know, these pigments or paints or, you know, whatever you want to call them, the way they work, they're just dry pigments mixed in with a vehicle and sometimes a binder. It's just like paint. And so you can just kind of top it off, as far as I know, with something. You know, you're adding something a little different. I'm sure that they're not adding, you know, Lumalite Clear Slow Part A to their mixture. It's probably like a glycol ether or something. But I don't think that you should run into any problems adding just a little bit of the resin. It's not like it really, the resin part of your like epoxies or, you know, resins, there's like resin and hardener for casting resins, and the resin really doesn't go bad, really, you know. The Part B, sometimes Part B could be resin, but the hardener, typically that's the jug that, you know, gets really thick, gets kind of crusty, those types of things. A little bit of a low spot right there, but it's not like a pinhole. So I basically just need to sand that out. I can see two little shiny spots, so I'll know when I'm done. When I've gotten rid of them, it's not going to have a little shiny dot on the blank. It's going to take a bit of sanding though. All right, Gene, have a great dinner. Thanks for joining the fun. Yeah, that's a good question, Jen, about are they water-based? You don't want to be using water-based pigments with, I would even say, like really not even with epoxy. So I'm kind of assuming with that you're talking about like something like Divine Pigments or something like that. In that case, you can just kind of thin it out with a little bit of your resin. Looks like I still got a little bit. We still got a little bit of a couple of spots there. Most of those can be just taken out with a little bit more CA glue. But I am going to try and just do a little bit of spot sanding here to try and kind of lower that. Bring it down just a little bit. There we go, that one's gone. There we go. Okay, so we should be good to go now. I'm just going to do a light pass here with the 180. we got to go back up. Unfortunately, this is the tough part about turning. You gotta, the finish, and this is the same no matter what. If you're turning, if you're doing woodworking, any of that stuff, the finishing part is going to take as long, if not longer, than the turning. Unfortunately. So now we'll move up to the 240 grit. I can't read my... I'm just going to get... If you can't read your sandpaper, or if it feels a little dull, get a new piece. Just get a new piece and move on. Okay, so that's the 180. We should be done with that. Here's my 240 grit. And I'm just going to do the lengthwise thing. We don't really need to spend a bunch of time going around. Epoxy resin. Yeah, so as long as it's like a, you know, that's kind of what I assumed, that it was kind of made, at least being marketed for people that do resin casting. Yeah, you should be fine. You can add a little bit of that part A. But like I said, be careful. You don't want to add too much. It'll get really runny, and, you know, just add a little bit here and there until it kind of thins out to what it was. One of the problems is you don't want to add too much of that resin, because it, you know, effectively it maybe could throw off your ratios a little bit, but so, you know, a little bit will go a long way in most cases. That, you know, throwing off your ratio, that's really not going to happen unless you're doing very small amounts of resin cast at once. That's where you could run into an issue. If you're doing, you know, 50 to 100 grams and you got a little bit of extra part A in your die, you know, it's not going to really do anything. So I'm going to get this thing out here. Just kind of make sure I'm not seeing any scratches going around. I got one right there, looks like. A little bit right there, but I don't really see anything else. I'll do a little bit more work on this front end. Okay, I think we're good. Blow it off, wipe it off. All right, move up to the 400 grit now. Now I can just do the radial sanding. Let's see here. Yeah, actually, are you talking about, do they make Abernet discs? They sure do, if that's the question. And they are fabulous. A lot of times you can get like a pack where it has like one or two of each grit, kind of up, you know, from some range. like 60 to 400 or 800 or 1,000 even. That's kind of nice. But you can also just buy them in, you know, packs of however many, like just a box of this grit, box of that grit. I think Turner's Warehouse has the discs too, even. All right, so let's take a peek at this thing. I'm just gonna gamble here and guess. If I give this one more little pass here, one more once over, I think I'm gonna call it good. And then one thing I like to do, I kind of like to bring it up just a little higher than 400. Just in case I got a kind of a deep scratch somewhere from 400, a little bit deeper than others. So I actually use another, like a spongy backed 500 grit pad next. And I don't know if this does anything. I don't necessarily recommend it or anything. It's just something that I do. I have these little pads, so I use them. It's another Abernet product, or another Merca, I should say, product, called Abralon, that I used to use for sanding finishes on like a tabletop. So it's just a spongy thing, not a big deal. But it just takes off some of my pressure, that finger pressure that I apply, because you have that pad. And so it's just kind of taken out a little bit. It just brings it up just a little bit higher. I don't know if it does anything, frankly, but it's just what I do. So we're in preparation of putting a CA finish on this. Normally I would move into wet sanding and I wouldn't mess around with that pad that I just did. But okay, a little bit of denatured alcohol bath, and it's CA finish time, guys. I'm gonna turn that thing off. Totally need that. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, 50 count box. That's usually what I do too. Okay, so for CA finishes, what I like to do for like the finish part, that other stuff that I was doing was like filling. Like I typically use 3 different things. Let's just go there. When it comes to CA finish, I love the super fast thin from Starbond. It's super thin and it will penetrate into things. That's a good one. Not even a bad one just to apply as a first coat, just to kind of lay down a boundary. You saw me using the Starbond thick. I like that for filling stuff. I also use this in conjunction with this. And I'll direct you to my video. If you're having any difficulties or don't know how to, don't have a good necessarily way of gluing in tubes, check out my video on that. I use both of these together for that. And that's not for wood blanks. That would be for like hybrid type stuff, where you're dealing with like, you know, plastics and metals or weird odd materials. But for the actual finish, this is what I usually use. And there's lots of different ones out there. This is not the best necessarily. It works the best for me because of the viscosity, because of the time, the working time and everything. I just find this to be awesome, and it has a really good polish and everything. So that's just my choice. And it's a thin. I like putting lots of thin coats on. It works good. I can get it applied very smooth. And I'm just putting a little thin coat on. So I put about 8 to 10 coats on these things. And we should be good. Okay, so let's get going here. I think one thing I'm going to do, yeah, we'll just deal with the end of this thing later. Let's get the finish on, and I find that the end is usually pretty easy to kind of clean up with a little bit of sanding. Throw a couple daubs of CA glue on and you're fine. And that's it. That's all I do. On and off pretty quick. Let that kind of think about what it's done for a second. And then I hit it with accelerator and move on to the next coat. There are 1,000 ways to apply a CA finish though, so it took me, and I tried a lot of them. This is the best way for me. So if you still haven't found, you know, the way that you kind of like to put on a CA finish, give this a shot, you know, see if this works for you. But there's lots of other ways to do it. Techniques, there's lots of different, some people like putting on like the thicker, you know, like the medium stuff. A lot of people use the medium flex from Mercury. They like that. I don't, it goes on thick and chunky kind of. I've never really liked that method. I just, for some reason, can get and the whole game with this, with CA finishes, to make this not terrible, is to get the finish on smooth. Otherwise, you're just going to be sanding for days, taking, you know, ridges and stuff out. So that's why I like just going with the thin, you know, thin layers of it. Yeah, I got links. So I have a tools I use page on my website, resinworksstudio.com. There's links down below in the description. But I got that tools I use page, and it's got the CA and, you know, most of the things. I really probably should add a few other things that I didn't think of, but I was pretty in depth about most of the general standard things. You know, the tools that I'm using, the, you know, finishes, all of that kind of good stuff. I don't know how many coats we've put on at this point, but maybe like 4 or 5. I like to build it up, you know. Give it a good 6 to 8 maybe, or 8 to 10, you know, thin coats. Now, this also kind of relies on this being very smooth and simple. Like if you're trying to put this on like a really bumpy thing, that kind of changes the game. And at that point, like for like stoppers and larger things that have a lot of like shaping to them, they're not just kind of a flat pen or something, then I like to pull out this, the UV resin, and actually with a decent paintbrush paint it onto those things. And I find that is by far the easiest finish to do on, and I'll use that on like medium-sized things or things that have a lot of craziness going on, that are just really difficult to sand and you know, get finish on with a paper towel with your finger. And then larger things, you know, in some cases, I mean, this is just things that need a finish, obviously. Kind of messed that one up, but that's okay. And then on larger projects, you know, bowls and things like that, if I need to, like a vase, a lot of times I'll just apply an epoxy finish on top of that. I find that I use that amazing Clearcast Plus stuff. And one thing that I need to try out at some point is their quick set. Is that what they're called? Quick coat. Quick coat. Quick coat epoxy. That stuff's got a little bit shorter working time. And they kind of brought it out to do like, to put a finish on top of tumblers. That's kind of how they market it. But that stuff would work pretty well as like a finish on a bowl or anything like that. Haven't tried it yet. My only thing about that though is I don't think it has any of the UV inhibitors that Amazing Clearcast Plus has. So it's kind of like, well, that's great that it's got a shorter working time, but I want one of the advantages to using the ACC Plus over something like, you know, if I'm doing a huge casting, I'm going to use Alumilite Clear Slow, because it's kind of one of the only options that can pour that much, but it doesn't have very good UV inhibitors in it, so it's nice to put a coating that has the extra UV inhibitors in it on top. So, OJ's here. What's up, man? Oh, good to see you, buddy. Liquid gloves. Oh, yeah. I don't know. If you just fold your paper over enough times, you really don't get too much CA glue on your fingers. You can just wear a glove, too. Yeah, Glue Boost, I've heard of that, but it's super expensive, and it's frankly just, I don't know. I mean, I haven't tried it. I shouldn't, you know, say anything, but it seems like it's just CA glue. That's pretty expensive. I might be wrong about that, though. All right, a couple more coats here. We should be pretty good. Let me just stop it and take a peek. Yeah, it's going on pretty good. I've got some ridges here and there, but they're not like lumps. Doug is awake. Cold and wet. Oh, man. All right, Bad Apple, thanks for coming in. I'm guessing that's Tim. Nice. Okay. 2 more coats. Uno. Yeah, I like the Flex. I don't know. It seems to be good. Another one that I used to use was the Bob Smith Gold, Super Gold Plus, or something like that. Do I have any of that still? And I think it had no odor as well. But it was pretty expensive, and I don't know. The Mercury came out, and I just kind of liked it a little bit better, you know. Yeah, I don't have that anymore. I don't know what I did with it, or if I used it all up or what. But yeah, Bob Smith Industries has some pretty decent stuff. I wasn't a big fan of, what is that? What is the one that everybody uses? Stick Fast. Didn't really like that too much. I never really ran into many problems with it, but I did see other people would run into issues where it cracked or did this or that, or I don't know. I didn't run into that myself. I think that it was more about like the timing of everything, the thickness, the viscosity. Like I said, it's just I couldn't necessarily get it on as smooth as this stuff, and the Bob Smith Industries has the same viscosity as Mercury Thin Flex, or pretty close. I just kind of, that's what I gravitated towards. All right. Yeah, I thought it was kind of, I've looked at it. A lot of people really like it, especially like, you know, people that are doing like, you see it a lot advertised with, like, you know, instrument makers and stuff, which, you know, they're doing some seriously fine work. And I don't doubt that it works good. I just don't know that it's really worth more price. Another problem I have with it also, why I haven't even tried it, is I got my CA finish. It took me a long time to really get my CA finish, how I apply it down to get a good one on there. And it's like, okay, it ain't broke, you know? I don't know. Someday I might give it a shot. I'll see if I can maybe get what's his name? Jeez. Scott Grove to send me some. I think he's selling it now. Who knows? Maybe it'll be life-changing. You never know. All right, so we got a I'm going kind of easy, but you want to make sure that you get all these little, ridges out, these shiny spots. Get everything nice and flat. Otherwise, it's going to look funny if you don't get the surface nice and flat. That's the start of super gloss, super flat. Oh yeah. Yeah, and sometimes certain CA glues, especially like if you're see, this is one thing that I'm flat out immune to is humidity. There is no humidity in Nevada, I mean, the most humid day is like nothing to most people. So I think humidity can kind of mess around with CA glues. I mean, it definitely, if you hit it with water, it's going to set up on you, So that's one of the issues that some people run into. It looks like we got a few little pits here and there. I don't like that. I think they'll be invisible. Yeah. It's getting a little bit too late for me to be messing around with it. So I like to get it pretty close. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but it looks like I actually did get it pretty much all of those shiny spots for the most part. A little bit here and there is not going to hurt anything. Little tiny, tiny bits of shiny because you're going to polish it up anyway. So we got 400 now. We're moving up back into the, now we're going to hit it with the wet sanding. I'm going to wipe this off with some alcohol. You can shut off the loud machine. There we go. Ah, oh, so nice. Get me a new piece of paper out here. So I use it's actually a 3M product, but they market it, they call it Zona. That's the company name. And so you can get this stuff at Turner's Warehouse, and they're the same thing as micro mesh, basically. Different, but pretty much the same idea. I like the paper thin personally. I never liked those pads, thick pad things. You can't. I couldn't get a feeling for how much pressure I was applying. That was one issue, and then these things are just cheaper anyway. So I'll go with the cheap one that works the same. Yeah, there's people that have like the kind of 2 thin, 3 medium, 1 thick, And I kind of like that idea. I mean, the thin is going to start. It's going to seal off the surface. Then you can kind of build up quick with the thick or medium. And then sometimes people even end with some thin on top, which will give you those kind of couple layers that you can get on smooth. So there's different approaches to this stuff, and there's 1,000 different ways to apply a CA finish. That's the definite truth. Everybody does it slightly different, I think. The name of the game is figuring out what's the most efficient or the best way that works for you, And sometimes, I mean, it took me years to really find a way to get on the CA finish that didn't take me 3 hours to get it right. For straight resin pens, I mean, if I need to put a finish on, I guess mostly, I don't know. I don't put a CA finish on only resin, but trying to think of something that I wouldn't need to seal necessarily. There are some things that I don't really seal, but the pen is, pretty flat, then it's pretty easy to get a CA finish on quick. You don't have a lot of filling to do. I guess a hybrid, like a wood hybrid with a wood that's not, there's no cracks or anything like that in it that you got to fill. That's a pretty easy CA finish to get on a pen. All right, so that ought to be good with the green. Now some people, and I don't know, I haven't really experimented. Some people will not cross-contaminate even when they get to the water, because the same issue where you could get a particle from this thing kind of contaminating your next level, and even wipe it off in between. I don't know. I've never really run into a major issue with that, so I don't really do it. But if you want to be absolutely certain that you're not contaminating, getting the green particles in with the gray or whatever, you might want to get like a different container or different water bucket, or change it out in the middle. There's nothing wrong with it, definitely, and it will guarantee that you're not getting any kind of sandpaper grit contamination between. You would want to wipe it off completely, wash it. I am excited to see what this thing looks like. Are you guys excited? I'm excited. I've been waiting for this. I was really hoping that these things would look good. And eventually I need to make a pen, that's tubed. I didn't actually have time to get that done for this stream, but I wanted to get on this week and see what these things look like. So you can imagine if you were doing a pen, though, one thing you can kind of try to imagine is all the clear spots. There's a couple of different ways you can approach that. If you want to kind of keep the same look and feel of the blank, where it's kind of clear around the rose stuff, you can use a nickel plated tube. I find that to be, I really don't like the look of brass in something that's clear. It just looks terrible, especially if you've scratched it, to glue it in. But the nickel plated tubes, which are basically like chrome looking, those look pretty good, but the issue you're going to run into is glue blobs. You're going to see these little glue splotches that there's just no way that I know of to get rid of them. So that's the downside, but it will kind of keep the look and feel intact of this blank. Most people, though, are just going to paint the inside of the blank. White is a good one to go with something like this, where it's really going to kind of reflect light and brighten things up underneath. Black is the other one that is very common, and that will just kind of darken things. You're not going to see underneath it, basically. So those are the two kind of ways that most people go. But yeah, I think this thing would look good as a pen too, but it's looking pretty good right now. Let's zoom you guys in. What do you think of that? Very nice and floral. It looks like potpourri. Potpourri in a bottle opener. I'm digging it. Let's get you guys we're plugged in. Let's unplug the camera. Let's get you guys a straight view. Oh, running into lights. Geez, getting a little dangerous around here. And get that glare off of that. Not helping. There we go. That's about the same. Looking pretty good. So we got and I'm just gonna pull out some of that magic juice. I think that stuff's my favorite. Okay, so let's pull out magic juice, get this thing polished up, and then we'll just nip off. I don't think I'm going to mess around with the sanding of the end. Stream's kind of going a little bit late tonight. We'll nip it off, and then all I do is I just like kind of hand sand the end a little bit, and then apply a CA finish. So let's see here. What are we doing? Magic juice. The juice is loose. This stuff is pretty good. I was very skeptical at first, and I'm a convert. Definitely say that it gets it more polished. Now, if you really, really love your buffing wheels, I don't my thing is I don't want to have to take this off, go to the buffing wheels, and then put it back on. But if you really like the buffing wheels, you could go and do buffing and then, you know, skip to like maybe the end step of something, or just use like a car polish. And I think that that would kind of get you the same thing, you know. But I kind of like the idea of just leaving the thing on there and going with the magic juice. It works pretty darn good for this type of thing. Still would definitely use the buffing wheels for larger projects. Like I'm not going to waste a bunch of this, you know, magic juice stuff. On a large piece, but pens, handles, stoppers, sure. So that was just step one. There's 6 steps. I get a different piece of paper every time, and it takes, you know, 10 seconds per or so, maybe. This one's a little bit bigger. For pens, like normal pens, it's even faster. But you know, I need maybe just a little bit more. The only thing I don't like is all these little lid things. Kind of a pain, but that's okay. And I just like to wipe it on real quick and then go. And I think the directions say to go around 2,000 RPMs or so, 2,500, and then just go until it's smooth turning. You can feel it, and then you're done. And I usually kind of give it a little, one more on the clean side, and then move on. And so it goes fast. I was kind of worried. I'm like, oh my God, there's 6 steps, like, you know. And then I started doing it, and I'm like, oh, this goes pretty fast. And what I found is, you know, not having to take it off the lathe, 10 or 15 at the most seconds per step. It's way faster, and you actually get better results than buffing wheels. Again, for pens, this is my go-to for pens at this point, and stuff like this. Pretty happy with it though. All right. Step 3 done. Let's go on to step 4. It's okay, Jen. I was going kind of late. I always try. I'm like, oh, this will be a quick one. Nope. I talked a lot at the beginning though too. Just giving you guys all the updates, you know. Gotta give you the updates. All right, I think we're on 5 now. I don't find that the Carnauba wax does anything. It's not really abrasive, so you're just adding wax to it. I don't know. Some people like it a lot. Most people don't. They don't really find that it does anything. I would recommend going with like a car polish as a final step rather than wax. One of the issues, especially if you're doing pens, this is, you know, specific to things that you're going to be handling, that wax is going to break down if you're handling it a lot. And so that's another reason why. So it may look kind of seem like it's shiny when you're initially, but give it a week, a month of you know, using the pen or your customer, and this is one of the big problems with it, and it's going to be all dull. So that's just, I don't have a whole lot of experience with that. That's generally how waxes go. So I just kind of took that information and said, yeah, it doesn't really seem like something I want to do. Plus, I never really saw any difference. I used to have the 3 wheels on mine too, and I finally ended up taking it off because it just didn't seem like it did anything for pens and most of the things that I use it for. I think that wax is a good one for if you've just got a wood bowl. That's kind of a difference, that's a little bit of a different story. That's going to be like a showpiece that you're going to put away or something. But for pens and things like that, I don't really think it does anything. That's just my personal opinion. Whew, that thing's looking shiny. Oh man, it's gonna blind you guys. Wow. Can you see that? What? So you can imagine, I mean, if that was a pen, I think that would be a pretty killer pen. I could maybe see, adding more. I maybe should have put the threads on it seems like I have more roses up here. You can see the threads a little bit, but wow, that's looking pretty good. All right, so let's get this thing. Like I said, I'll finish up the bottom of this thing later. I'm just going to come in with the detailer tool, kind of lop that thing off a little bit, and then we'll assemble it, and then we'll kind of wrap things up. Let's see, where's my detailer? I think we'll come in with this one first. I got a couple detailers. I love all the EasyWood tools. They really are awesome. But I'm going to come in with this round one first. I'm going to zoom you guys out. I'm going to come in with the CI4. This is the mini detailer. I'm going to slow it down just a little bit. And then I really like this, the CI7. So this is the I don't even know the name of this thing. Mid-size, medium, something. But it's got a super fine tip on it. I'm just going to kind of sneak up on it a little bit here. And then get this tailstock out of the way. And there we have it. I don't know. I think I'd like to try to clean this up. I'm a little worried that not being supported, I may screw it up. We're going to try it though. So I'm trying to get the camera where I want it. Hold on real quick, guys. There we go. So this could go either really well or really bad. Let's see. I think I'm just going to use that little mini detailer. Totally missed on that shot. Make sure that I'm coming in near the middle. A little bit low. That's pretty good. I'm just going to try to clean this up. I'm putting the face mask on though because I don't trust myself. You know. Okay. And then I'm actually going to come in with the, this just has a really small cutter on it. So that smaller diameter is a little bit smoother. You're just not taking as much away. Ooh, that wasn't too well. It doesn't feel that good. Ooh, that feels pretty good. I think I might be able to get away with just sticking some CA glue on the bottom of that thing and walking away. Let's see how this works. This isn't like a super critical project or anything. My wife doesn't even drink beer, so not for her. If anyone, it's for me. So let's try and just stick some CA glue on the bottom and see what it looks like. I think that'll probably just be fine. I could sand it, but I think that's just going to be a little bit of a waste of time at this point. Let's give this a whirl. Hopefully you guys are seeing this, yeah. It ain't gonna be perfect, but I think it's gonna be good enough. Faux show. Maybe one more coat, just a quickie, and then we'll just walk away from this thing, because that looks fine. Oh, it's a little sticky. Yeah, that's not looking, I don't think anyone would even notice that I didn't fully sand and mess around with this stuff. I did pretty decent cleaning that up with the tool. I was, to be honest, surprised. A little bit surprised. That went a lot better than I thought it was going to go. Sometimes I try and do that and the thing comes flying off. Not fun. I think that's good. I'm not going to even hit it with the accelerator. I'm just going to let it kind of cure on its own. Man, I'm stoked about this thing though. It looks good. Maybe we'll come to the front. Trying to find a good angle for you guys. Sometimes these super shiny things are really tough to. Ooh, there's the angle. I found the angle. I think I found the angle. Let's see. Yeah, I think this is it. No glare. Man, look at that thing. Ooh-wee. What do you guys think? Doug is back. Yak's out of here. Have a good one, man. Yeah, sorry. Thanks, Stefan. Magic Juice you can get at Turner's Warehouse. You can also get it on, like, directly from Stadium Pen Blanks. But if you use my link and go to Turner's Warehouse to buy it, I get a little kickback. So either way though, if you're in like the Midwest, or not Midwest, if you're on like the East Coast, you might get it quicker ordering from Stadium Pen Blanks possibly. I think he's in Virginia, if I remember correctly. Okay, at this point now, so it's kind of cured. I'm just going to hit it with this accelerator real quick. because I want to take it off of here. Sometimes it can kind of change the surface if you hit it right away with that stuff. I think I'm gonna, do I have a, I'm just gonna kind of wipe it off with a microfiber in case there's some of that. That would be good. And at this point, one thing also that I could do is just hit it with like the final step of magic juice, but I think we're good. You know, I don't think it really matters that much. Just wiping off. There's a little bit of the polish on the end there, so that's nice and clean. And let's see here. Am I on camera? Oh, I'm way zoomed out. Whoa, even further. Okay, we got it. Thousand threads. I think it's pretty cool. What say you? Feels good in the hand. About the right size. Open your beer. Pretty cool. Let's see what it looks like. I can get a better view and see what's actually going on under this other camera. May not be as bright though. We don't really have any light behind us. Let's see if I can kind of fix this a little bit. Got a lot of glares going on this camera, but be like that. Got a lot of lights in here. That's pretty cool looking though, I think. Got the right size. And I mean, it's not gonna break. You know, it's not even flexing at all, I don't think. Not on a beer. Now, if you're going to use this to like lever or something else, you know, then you might run into some problems with that. You like the mouth sound effects? I got to do so. Oh, by the way, my wife made me this shirt, so I always say whoops-a-doodle. And so we decided to throw on my logo. And I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but I've actually named this guy. His name is Tinker, because I like to tinker. But whoops-a-doodle, I always say that. It's such a silly word that I decided to say that. So thank you to Gretchen for making me a cool shirt. Pork, sausage, and venison. Oh, man. That sounds good. Wow. Yeah, it kind of does look like a test tube, doesn't it? Yeah. It's pretty cool, though. Yeah. It's a test tube with rose petals. Pretty sweet. That's what I'm going to call it. Test tube with rose petals bottle opener. That'll sell like hotcakes. Sweet. Cool. Oh man, Mark, it is impossible getting good pictures. So I have like one of those photo booth tent things and all that, and it's still difficult. But you know, eventually you'll kind of figure out that, you know, you'll get the angle of the light, the amount of light that you need so it doesn't reflect, and get the camera angle the right way. And from there on, just take the same picture with the same same everything. It's really tough though. And a lot of times you can get it. A lot of times I would get to the point where I'm like super anal about it. And if there was any spot of you know, reflection on the piece, anywhere, even though it didn't obscure the view or anything like that, I would get annoyed. I would recommend, if you know, don't worry about a few little, you know, little glare spots. As long as you can really kind of see the majority of the piece, I don't think anybody cares. And it's actually, like, from a customer point of view, I think sometimes they kind of think that they're like, oh wow, that's really glossy, you know. So not too bad, not too bad. Whoops the doodle, yeah. Cup the top. Cup the top. I'm not sure what cup the top means. Avoids the warranty. Yeah, that voids the warranty. You must use this for opening beers, and that's it. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's stream. It was pretty fun. I was really looking forward to seeing how these things turn out. And it's, you know, it's tough to tell exactly what this would look like as a pen. But I think I'm thinking if you went with white, painted the inside of the blank white, so not the tube, that you run into the same problem with the glue splotches. You don't want to just paint the tube. You got to physically go in and paint the inside of the blank. And then that way, anything that's clear in this one is going to be white, you know, like a nice white background. I actually have an example of that. So the same thing happens with these glitter blanks, like the shamrocks and the autism blanks. You got the same issue where all the clear spots are, you know, going to look terrible. So this is actually just, you paint the inside of the blank, and that's what this looks like. Now, it's kind of tough to get it perfect. You know, you really want to do maybe a couple thin coats. I just use spray paint usually. One tip that I saw from Flower Blank, what the heck is it? Flower Girl Blanks. She cleans the inside of the blank out with denatured alcohol or something. And I think that's a really smart idea. And I think she cleans it out, and I think she actually also douses it with thin CA on the inside. And I think that helps you, helps that paint adhere to something. So that's a little tip that you might try. I haven't tried it yet. I just do, you know, a few coats. But, you know, you can imagine like all the clear spots being white. I think that you're really it would be a lot easier to see the rose petals, you know, in a pen blank. Like if you're trying to do it just clear and using like the nickel tubes, I think it would be kind of dark like this unless you had light shining on it from above or behind. But I think the white paint would look pretty good, and I think it would pop, you know, your rose petals and stuff and the buds. So pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it'll work for pens or like diamond painting pen type things. So those are, I made some 7/8 diameter blanks. They're available on my website. There's a link down in the show notes, but here's another one if you want to check that out. Yeah, so big thank you to everybody that super chatted, and big thank you to everybody that came out and enjoyed a little bit of live stream action. Don't forget, for patrons, Friday is at 3 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to be playing around with coasters. We're going to be using these Philip Danner coaster molds, and I'm telling you, these things are the coolest things ever. I got to show you guys again for anybody that didn't see these already. So these things like totally fit in the coasters, so you can make, you know, different shapes and all this kind of craziness. It's, oh man, I can't wait to play with these things. So I got some little mountains, I got some moons and stars, and then this one's like a sun. If you put these little polka dots here around it, it's like a sun shape. So we're going to be playing with that. So if you want to join the Patreon family, you can head over to patreon.com. It's actually patreon.com/nvwoodworks still. Need to change that soon, but that was my old one. But you can support the show there, do a monthly hangout with us, and it'll be pretty fun. So I hope to see everybody that can make it from the patron family over there. And I think that's about it. So anyway, guys, I hope you have a wonderful evening tonight. Have a great weekend. Get in the shop, do something fun with resin or turn something up, whatever it may be. Even if you only got 5 or 10 minutes, do something kind of fun in your shop. It always makes me feel a little bit better, even if I can't get a lot done. Just doing something, hanging out in there. So anyway, guys, have a great night, and I'll see you guys on the next live stream.